This edition of the Ridley Report is brought to you by the AK-47, because the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Sam Dodson and his partner in crime, Meg, each have a different tone when they deal with government officials.
I'm a citizen making a complaint.
Please
you guys
arrest
don't
that
care.
man. If we did that, we would be in handcuffs and taped.
But over the last month or two, New Hampshire bureaucrats have been increasingly hassling both of them. They're independent journalists who upload their miniature documentaries on obscuredtruth.com. But here's what happened to Dodson a little over a month ago when he tried to shoot one of those documentaries.
Whoa!
Watch it, buddy.
Whoa, that is...
You do not do that.
Did I bump you? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you are sorry.
You were blocking the way there.
That's a very expensive camera.
That's a court security officer doing what Dodson claims is about $150 worth of damage to his camera. He's standing just outside the area, not inside the area, where cameras are banned. Or maybe I should say where videography is banned. The court is called Keene District Court. If Sam was the target of that attack, Meg was the target of this one. Less violent, perhaps, but just as inappropriate. This is a Keene police officer serving Meg with papers, banning her from doing something she's not accused of doing. You see, Meg has a good habit. She likes to call bureaucrats and respectfully question them regarding their treatment of activists. According to her collaborator Sam Dodson, that's what got her in trouble. Meg had sent an email to the superintendent of Keene's jail. She said she'd never stop supporting the activists who were on jail property and arrested for it. She wasn't one of the arrestees, but the superintendent had her hunted down and banned from entering jail property for 1 year. Meg says she's never even been there. Dodson says that police showed him a copy of the email and highlighted the following phrases that Meg had said. Quote, "I, for one, will not stop supporting these people despite threats of violence or caging." Unquote. So that comment is apparently getting her banned from the jail, and that's the notice that this officer is delivering. She's never even been to the jail. She's probably the person in the movement who has the best relations with the superintendent, and even she is not immune from these bizarre edicts. I'd have better audio and video for you, but Meg has made a common mistake, well, it could be considered a mistake, of failing to link her YouTube account, failing to link her Quick account with her YouTube account. This video uploaded live to quick.com, but videos tend to get marooned there because it's hard to download from quick.com. You want to go into the settings on Quick and prime quick.com to send the video straight to YouTube, unless you're trying to keep something private. I'm always glad when people make this mistake because it gives me a chance to remind everybody not to make it. So more and more people are finally linking their Quick accounts to their YouTube accounts. Anyway, Meg and Sam's troubles don't end here. Sam Dodson was also assaulted and had his sign stolen. He was holding a "School Sucks" podcast sign near a middle school in Keene, which, as I suspected, triggered an overreaction from angry parents and students. I guess he was there by himself that day, but within a few days he was joined by about a dozen people doing the same thing. I do want to go back to Meg's banning, though. One reason that the authorities may have felt emboldened to do this kind of thing, to start threatening people who haven't even been accused of being near the jail, is that they didn't get much pushback when they arrested those 12 activists at the jail. Much as I might like some of the people on the Keene Police Department, this was probably the most inappropriate series of arrests I've ever seen against activists in New Hampshire. And yet, there were no follow-on protests near the jail. There was no real pushback few people really did anything to make the authorities feel in Keene like they had overplayed their hand. Now, whether it was premeditated or not, this series of arrests led to an article in the Keene Sentinel basically accusing activists of tying down the police when they were needed elsewhere. Of course, the activists had no desire to even interact with the police, but it generated some public sympathy for the cops in Keene. That, coupled with, again, the lack of follow-on activity, or at least the limited nature of follow-on activity, may have emboldened the authorities, at least temporarily. Whenever there is an unusually inappropriate arrest of an activist, authorities should feel like they lost more out of it than they gained. And normally that is the case. So far, it hasn't been the case in relation to this particular series of arrests. Now, I've done what I can from here, editing videos about it and talking to one of the city councilors about it on tape. But each of us needs to do something. This was a breach, a misuse of the police, and it shouldn't be set aside or forgotten. As I mentioned before, if there's going to be another demonstration at this jail, I'm potentially willing to come out there from halfway across the state just to get video of it, because I think it has become that important. One recommendation I'd have, whether I'm there or not, even if you were to trespass on jail property, don't go further in than a videographer can film you from an area where he's allowed to be. It doesn't really matter that much to me whether there's civil disobedience or quote-unquote trespass or not. It's just that the jail, I just don't feel comfortable with the fact that it's been left alone for so long after this abuse occurred. It makes the authorities feel like this kind of abuse is something they can keep doing and get away with. Pushback and counter-protests would remind the Keene Police Department that we want them to be what they traditionally are, one of the more laid-back police departments in the state, one of the more professional operations. Is that changing? These arrests make me think it might be. We need to make it a routine expectation on their part that they always lose more than they gain from attacking us. By they, of course, I mean authorities in general, not necessarily KPD. Oh, one last note regarding Meg's harassment the other day. While she was being harassed, there were open carriers present. Did I say president? I meant present. Anyway, they were doing something the president doesn't do, or at least doesn't do openly, open carrying in Keene, New Hampshire. And as usual, KPD did not worry about this too much. This edition of the Ridley Report is brought to you by the AK-47.